Democratic challenger Joe Biden is still undecided, with the outcome depending on results from 5 states that are still counting ballots. However, Biden has edged closer to winning the White House by increasing his narrow leads over Trump in the battleground states of Pennsylvania and Georgia. Meanwhile, the former vice president has told the nation that while they do not have clear results yet, he's heading for victory. Let's now cross back to Nick Harper in Wilmington in Delaware. Nick, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us again. Since we last spoke to you, what more can you tell us this hour?
Well, that counting is still continuing, and we are still in that state of play 3 days after Election Day, where America continues to wait and the US TV networks continue to update almost hour by hour what exactly is happening in this race. We've seen Joe Biden extend his lead throughout the day, in particular in Georgia and also in Nevada as well. In Pennsylvania, he's done particularly well. We've seen him not only overtake President Trump at the start of the day, but continue to extend his lead. In Arizona, he has had his lead slightly chipped away by the president. But the thinking from the Biden camp, the Democrats, is that we will continue to see his lead grow, in particular in Pennsylvania, in Nevada and in Georgia, because the remaining votes that are still to be counted are postal ballot votes or mail-in votes that largely favor the Democrats. We've seen the majority of those mail-in ballots coming from Democrats, the thinking being that the Republican president, Donald Trump, in the run-up to this election, pushed that idea that mail-in ballots were open to fraud, and therefore many Republicans didn't use that mode of voting. Instead, Democrats did instead. So we're still waiting. At the beginning of this week, the Democrats warned that we could potentially see election week, not just election day, and that is certainly the case as we now continue into the weekend, and there is still no declared winner in this race, even though it's becoming clearer hour by hour that the next president of the United States will be Joe Biden. It just hasn't been declared just yet.
We heard the Republicans threatening to take to the Supreme Court, in protest over vote rigging. How's that coming along?
Well, as of yet, that hasn't processed. Donald Trump has suggested that that is what he wants to do, in the same way that he has tried to launch a variety of legal battles in different states. Some of them have already been thrown out by individual state courts, saying that there's not enough merit to them, which is what the Democrats have been saying as well. Much of the litigation that Donald Trump has been putting forward, they have called meritless. One of the advisors in the Biden campaign even said that the Trump campaign was trying to create a cloud around all of this to obscure the facts. They said, though, that it wasn't a very thick cloud and that they could see through it, and they imagine that many in the American electorate could also see through it. We know that the Democrats have teams of lawyers in all the states where Trump is putting up legal challenges, in Nevada, in Georgia, in Arizona, even in Wisconsin and Michigan, which are 2 states that have already been called in favor of Joe Biden. And they have asked their supporters to front money to add to this fund, which totals more than $10 million, to help the Democrats fight these legal challenges. But they feel, because they say that these legal challenges put forward by the Trump administration are so paper thin, they feel that they will be able to defeat every single one of them.
In his address earlier on, Joe Biden said the Republicans, they may be their opponents, but definitely not their enemies, and said that the nation must come together and he will represent the whole nation. And he said in part, quote, "We have to be civil, to put the anger and the demonization behind us. It is time for us to come together as a nation to heal. It's not going to be easy, but we have to try," close quote. And I guess this is that Trump card that endeared him with so many Americans, and some Americans saying that he's even more presidential and cordial in his approach to the election campaign, isn't it?
Well, certainly, and that is the message that Joe Biden is now trying to push. He has now spoken 4 times since Election Day, on election night itself and now 3 times subsequently. And on each of those occasions, he has come out and not only asked for calm and for patience and for every vote to be counted, but also he has asked people to begin to get to the point where, when all of these votes are counted, everybody essentially needs to put the past in the past. Everybody needs to move on, and he is pushing this idea of unity, saying that he would be a Republican by political nature, but he would be ready to unite the country, to lead Republicans and Democrats. Now look, it's very easy to say that, but it will be very difficult in practice. Bear in mind that 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. Almost half. Joe Biden's got about 74 million votes in total. So it shows that it is a very politically polarized country, almost split down the middle. Those divisions will not be easily healed overnight. And the fear is that with Donald Trump continuing to push this idea without evidence that the Democrats have stolen the election from the Republicans, there will be many disaffected Republicans out there continuing to listen to that message and think, well, look, Joe Biden is not the man to lead my country. He stole the election. So trying to create that unity that Joe Biden is asking for will certainly be very difficult for him as and when he is in charge of the country.
All right, Nick Harper, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll certainly touch base with you a little later on as vote counting is in progress.